Good day, everyone. This is the Parapodcast. Thank you for coming to our channel and enjoying what we are doing. This is the second installment, and we hope that you are going to enjoy this. So, today we are talking about career progression, and we have three clinicians that have a lot of experience in different fields. It's funny that you're seeing the same faces, but you'll be surprised of the experience that we have among us. So we have Tulani Sibanda, and we have Elias Thomas, and I am Malusi Mteto. I'm just driving the topic. We're just sharing our experience, and we do hope that our experience is going to be of benefit to you one way or the other. While I was browsing, I saw a cycle that represented the career progression, and it was published by the UK College of Paramedicine. We're going to share it now so that you can see it. The cycle represents how a paramedic progresses from when they start their career until they are at the top pinnacle of their career. Basically, the idea of today's discussion is for us to see what you can be from just being a paramedic, from being a paramedic student, and then what else can you do within the paramedicine career lifespan that we all have, right? uh, Basically, now we have degrees that we do, and the degrees are different from country to country, and also this structure is based in the UK, but it is applicable to many other countries in different ways. Some terms may be the same, others may not be the same, and also the registration with the council of each country may not also be the same, but other things are relevant. So you finish your last year at uni, and then after that you start working. In other places, the UK and in Australia, you will have a mentor that is going to guide you, which is a period of internship. That's when you are guided. Literally, a person holds your hand and guide you step by step into what exactly are you expected to do. Other organizations, both the UK and Australia, will have like a tick box exercise where they say that Elias did this, and today he did that, and now they're improving to that. And then at the end, you'll be a qualified paramedic. You can register. You can be employed by your respective organization if they like you, obviously. Right.
I think
So
I think the only thing
yeah.
I was just gonna say the only thing different with probably with New Zealand is that if you are a newly registered paramedic, you don't get a pin. So meaning you are registered with the council, but then you still need to achieve the right to practice. So within those that newly qualified phase, you can't work independently anywhere in New Zealand until you get what they call a pin.
Okay.
So yeah, so just probably just to add to that of the UK and in Australia.
It's actually the same even here. So what
Mhm.
happens is, I do hope that we do get to talk about this part Tara, where we discuss that in Australia it's different. You can register with APRA,
The
but
council.
the council, but the organization that you work with has to give you a letter of practice. It is renewed every year. You say to say that you qualify to work in that clinical practice. So it's like two levels. Unlike in South Africa, where if you are registered with the HPCSA, it
That's
means that
it.
you are going to practice in that level. And the organization that you work for doesn't have anything to do with your level of clinical practice. All they have to do is supplying you with the medication that you need in your level of practice, and education maybe now and then to refreshers and stuff like that. It's different. But also the background of that is that actually Australia started registering paramedic in 2018 year end. We were one of the first cohorts when we started, when they started.
2018,
Yes, 2018 when I came here.
New Zealand had its first council or paramedic council in 2019. When I went to the UK, that's when they had their.
Yeah,
So all the paramedics had to register. I think they were just sort of like employed by whatever company that you're working for, but there was no council in the country until 2019.
absolutely. So it's almost similar. Whereas in South Africa, it's been there for donkey years. Yeah, it's been there for like a long time, as far as I can remember. When we started at uni, we had to register with the council as students. So we'll be paramedic students registered under that category. That was like in 2000, early 2000. And I'm sure even before that it was there. I haven't really read much when they started. But then it means that the council then gives the universities the 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 scope of practice that is expected from the clinicians that qualify in that university, which means that the organization can rely on the council in terms of the practice output that needs to be done by paramedics. Whereas here in Australia, culturally, the organizations had to decide what exactly clinicians do. And that ended up being in each state in Australia, same as New Zealand, that this is what organization expects you to do if you are in this level. But now, I guess it will be hard to then reverse and tell the organization, the APRA, to say now change, let's change it and have it the other way around. This part is a discussion on its own, but it is interesting that it's different from country to country. So you'll be surprised if you move around the globe and you find those differences. If you go to America, I'm sure you find there is also a different from state to state. Right. Um, some other people like that they want to be paramedic and they enter the industry. Uh, they start working, and there in your first 2 years, first 2 to 5 years, you're still trying to understand the industry, to find yourself, to find identity within the community that you're serving. If you remember, there was something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you remember that, you'll see that somewhere you need to identify yourself and find meaning within the community. It's it's exactly the same as that. I'm going to um, ask Tulani to tell us uh, about his experience. So, Tulani, I know that he was a paramedic that was operational for a period of time. We learned that in one of the podcasts that we have. And then after some time, he entered the university. So, if you look at this ring that we have, there is the lecture component. So, he moved from being a paramedic towards lecturing. How did you find that, Tulani?
Um, so, hi everyone. Thanks, Melusi. The lecturing part for me, when I moved from train from an operational paramedic to a lecturing part, it was fun. Obviously, as a lecturer, it was kind of challenging because you get given this role to really impart knowledge on the students, and I learned a lot. But just to explain briefly, is that um, through my career progression, obviously started started many years ago. Started 2018 working, and I worked for a private company. And when I left for the private company, I went uh, lecturing for about 6 months for another private company. So I moved from one private company to another private company to lecturer. But when I lectured that for the private company, it was only for a short period of time. It was for 6 months, and I felt it in me that no, I was not ready to be a full-time lecturer. And I went back to as a road operational paramedic. And then when I went to work as a operational paramedic, I then worked for the University of Johannesburg as a lecturer. And my responsibility there as a lecturer was a first year coordinator. I think the experience was great and learned a lot, but also I felt that there were like shortcomings from being a lecturer because of I didn't have enough experience. But with the number of years that I spent there, I got to get that experience that is required. Yeah, I think that sums it up. I hope that answers your question. But that's the career progression that I took and I enjoyed, um, and I followed. However, I it was very short lived. I think it was 4.5 years. I worked for the University of Johannesburg,
Short-lived.
and
Long, yeah. That's a long time, eh?
is that a
The
long
grass must have been green that you stayed for that long.
No, man, like that's one of the jobs that I think every job that I did, it was um it was nice to work, but leaving was hard. So University of Johannesburg was one of the jobs that was hard for me to leave, mainly because of the environment that I was in. The people that were there have a wealth of experience and knowledge, have had a significant impact towards the EMS industry in South Africa, but also not just in South Africa, but also internationally. So it was hard.
I'm just wondering, how was it like, coming back to, I'm not sure if there were people that taught you there, and then you had to come back, and now these people are your colleagues? Because I have a similar experience, but I'm just wondering, how was it for you?
I think coming from being a black person, Elias, that it's you get taught to call people that have taught you or people that are older than you, sir. Um, and I came back to work at the University of Johannesburg. I still call them sir. I hope he doesn't listen to this, but this is the one lecturer. He he's a prof now, Prof Maki. I still call it Prof Mike Doctor. Well, it's now Prof, but I still say Mr. Maki because he has that thing that I lectured you. He doesn't say it, but you feel it. Like, you feel the
The
edge
energy
in there.
is
But
in the room.
I think you when you get there in that environment, you ask yourself like, these guys are really good. They taught me. Am I going to be at that level? You get intimidated. They've got that experience, but also they put you under your wing. That they get to mentor you, get to teach you how everything works. So eventually, after some time, I was able to be able to go through that and work under them. Um,
Yes.
survive.
Uh, I
Yeah.
want to also ask Elias, because Elias has had this experience too of working at uni in his early stages of his career. How did you find,
Too
how
early.
did you find that?
I think it was too early for me in all essence because I just worked on the road for about a year, and then they were recruiting, but they were recruiting for a lab technologist. But now, when you get into an emergency medical care department, there's nothing like a lab technologist. You are basically a paramedic and you fill all the gaps that are there. And I found myself lecturing year ones. They will give you certain topics to say, hey, listen, you're part of the team now. Obviously, you have to start getting into this. And I started doing a lot of simulations with the students as well, like from year one to year three. Mostly not year three, because year three are ready for the market. So mostly year one and year two. And in year two, you do a lot of medicals. And I just felt like I did not have the clinical experience. Like I've not seen most of the things. Like I've not seen diverticulitis before, or like Crohn's disease, of a patient. I was before that I was working for a company that only responded to car accidents or like motor vehicle accident fund. So all I did was respond to car accidents. So when I got there, I did not have the experience. And in terms of working with the colleagues, it was a very humbling experience because I looked up to everyone that lectured me before. And now being in the space where they are your colleagues, you still have that humbling experience. As in, like, I look up to them. And sometimes they'll ask your opinion on things, and I'm like, no, it's fine. And they're like, no, we have to hear your side of what you think because you are part of the team now. You're not a student any longer. You are a professional. You're working for this university. You make decisions, and your decisions are just as valuable. So I think there is that little bit of imposter syndrome, as you're getting into this role. And I think the other thing was also just working with the students. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard
Yeah.
because some of the students you'll be hanging with on the weekend, now on Monday they have to call you say. So and Namibia is small, and Windhoek, to be specific, is very
Yeah.
small. So I think just that transition was a little bit difficult. And some people are way older than you, and they have to call you say. Some of them almost twice, because I was probably like 23 or something.
Yeah.
Some of them three times your age. So maybe not 3 times, twice your
Yeah.
age.
Can you
Three
imagine
times,
that you
twice
need
your
to
age.
pack things to
Yeah.
ensure
So
that you don't end up saying, "Hey, you failed the test." when you
yeah. So so I think there was a challenge in itself, just like, um sort of like handling the two relationships, your friends, because some of the students are your friends' girlfriends. So it was a little bit tricky, but it's one of those ways. Just you kind of have to just be professional about it, and also just take the experience. But it did not last long. I think I wanted more experience. In about a year and 8 months, I left for London.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, what we can learn from this, I think it's important that you stay in the position, understand the industry. That's what I'm learning from this. You should be entrance, paramedic, operational. You get your basic 3 years, and then after that, you can start exploring other avenues of your career progression. It helps to understand what exactly is the gist of where you are. I think other universities will also emphasize that sometimes you don't have life experiences to actually be a paramedic that is matured. Uh, Imagine dealing with a family that is trying to conceive a kid and the baby passes away and you have to console them and you are 22 years, you don't have a life experience to actually perceive and understand their position at the time. It helps to have a bit of life experience. Anyway, um so we've explored paramedic at that first level, the newly qualified and the paramedic, and then we move towards specialization. Now I want to mention this: in a country like South Africa, when you finish your 4 years of a degree, you end up, I believe you end up in that position because of your clinical level output as per the Health Professions Council of South Africa. So you are the highest qualified person to be on the field wherever you are working. I think also it's important that I highlight that historically we've had a lot of levels, which was the entry level was basic life support back in the day, and then it moved to then the next one would be intermediate life support, and then the next one was critical care assistant, and then there was a change in between after that where there was introduction of national diplomas who were sort of functioning the same as critical care assistants. I remember there was a lot of debates that I'm not a CCA, I'm an NDIP. Critical care assistant and NDIP, there was that war. Yes, the clinical output at some point was exactly the same in terms of the skills. I understand the knowledge might not be the same because the other one studied at university, the other one had a lot of experience. I think that was just unnecessary because we like to compete and say, this one is better, this one is not better. Anyway, couple of years, I think 2007, there was introduction of a Bachelor of Technology in Emergency Medical Care that went on for some time. That included new skills. I think what you studied at uni, you studied management, you did educational techniques, and you also did coronary care, I remember. And then there was also intensive care practice that included RSI as one of the skills that you could practice there. So that was the highest level. But then um, after some time, the degrees, when they came out, the degrees, you come out with the whole thing where you can RSI, you study the management and all those things. So it changed after some time. You still have other qualifications that are there, the basic life support and intermediate life support. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, those registered were shut. Am I correct? The Tulani there, those two. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they introduced new ones, which was a is it what okay ACA? What is it called?
ECA, emergency care assistant, and the diploma in emergency medical care. So the ECA is a 1 year program, and the EMC, diploma in emergency medical care, it's a 2 year
Yeah.
program.
So it varies like that. Whereas yeah, when do you have different qualifications in the UK, Elias?
Yeah, you have so you start off as a TIC, which is like a trainee, TEAC, and you become an IC after you finish your training. I know it's funny abbreviations. A tick and a ick, yeah. And then after that, which is similar to like a EMT, basically. A ick is similar to an EMT. But I think in terms of skills, I'll probably say it's more or less like an intermediate, but an intermediate can do more skills. I think they've added few skills like airway management now, and you can give few painkillers. But in terms of the skill mix, they are still a little bit behind because obviously with the paramedic, it's like at a ECT scope, sort of like in comparison to the Southern Africa, it will be an ECT scope. But then from there, from IC, you just move straight to a newly qualified paramedic, and then you'll be on internship for, I believe it's 10 weeks.
Okay.
Sort of where you have to ride out with a paramedic. Whether you are ready or not, your mentor will tell you if you are ready, and if you are ready, you're going to paramedic, and the list goes on as per the structure that we are
Okay.
looking at.
So you come with a degree, and you start with a tick, and then you move to an ick.
No. You come. You basically start off as a tick if you have no background.
No
at all.
background, zero background, no degree.
No background. Yeah, but actually there is an ambulance assistant as well. I think they brought in a new one during
Okay.
COVID, to make sure that where you just do 6 weeks. Basically, what you can do is only driving. I don't think you can even give paracetamol on the
Yeah.
ambulance. Yeah. So that was just to try and increase the workforce. Especially, I know that from London Ambulance Service. I'm not sure if everyone else does it anywhere else, but London Ambulance Service did that. And they were brought in just to increase the workforce during COVID. And then but initially they had the traditional tick ick, and then newly qualified paramedic, which is NQP, and then paramedic, like a Band 6 paramedic. And then you have your Band 7, which is most likely going to be your extended care paramedic, or what they call urgent care paramedic or critical care paramedic.
Wait, Elias. Like they eat the chicks, they eat. Let's explain because you're using terms I don't even understand.
Sorry, yeah. So basically, you start off as a tick, no experience. You start off as an
What is
ambulance
a tick?
assistant.
What does tick stand for?
What is
I'll
it?
probably have to find it
all right.
because we're so used to calling it a tick that I
Elias
never
is
really
going to
actually
post
looked
this for
into
us. He's going to tell us what does tick mean and the ick mean. Yeah.
yeah. I'll find it and I'll post it. But yeah, usually for all paramedics, if you did university training, you come in as a newly qualified paramedic. They will compare your skill sets with the council, HCPC, Health and Care Professions
Yep.
Council. And if they deem you fit to be a paramedic, then you become a paramedic. The council will register you as a paramedic, but your employer will give you time. Usually, the newly qualified paramedic will be a title that you'll have for 2 years. After 2 years, you can move to paramedic. But then between that is the internship period, which is 10 weeks, which means that you can't work on your own. You have to work under supervision of a Band 6 paramedic, which is like a paramedic that has at least been in the service for 2 years. Yeah. So, and then after the 2 years, once you signed off, you become a paramedic. But if you come from overseas, let's say, for instance, Tulani decides he wants to go work in the UK, he will start off as a newly qualified paramedic. And then you will do the 10 weeks. After the 10 weeks, you become a Band 6 paramedic. Sorry, you become like sort of like an independent paramedic, but not yet a Band 6 paramedic. And then after 2 years, you become a Band 6 paramedic. I know South Coast Ambulance Service does
That's
it
in the
different.
UK.
Yes, that's in the UK. It's just like different trusts. South Coast, they do 1 year only, but London Ambulance does
Tell
2
us about
years,
trust. What's the
unless it
difference
has
there?
changed in the
What are
past.
trusts? So for people that don't know.
So basically, trusts. Think of it as in South Africa. So it might KZN might have a different ambulance service. So it's all government, but then they have their subordinates. So they take care of specific areas. So they have their own management, their own. The practice is the same, but it's just that it's divided. Yeah, it's different. It covers different areas.
In terms of Australia and America, it would be different states, basically.
Definitely, that's more. For New Zealand, I think it doesn't really apply because mostly it's St. John's everywhere. Otherwise, if you're a paramedic, you're either working in a GP practice or you are working on a heli. But otherwise, most people just work for St. John's, more or less the same.
So what we've spoken about now, back to that ring, we've been a paramedic, and then we've moved to specialist paramedic, and basically, I think if you work in a heli, you'll be an advanced paramedic. Am I correct there, Elias?
Yes, you'll be an advanced paramedic or you'll be a HEMS
Yeah.
paramedic.
Some other organizations will also, that is where actually Tulan is working at the moment. That's where Tulan is working. This is what he does. Anyway, as I told you, you'll be surprised that these guests that we have and the hosts that we have a lot of experience in different fields. And what you've just noticed too is that Elias moved from Namibia, lecturing in a university there, and switched quickly to the UK and explained the structure of the UK there, where he spent some time. Now he's in New Zealand, where he's experiencing a different structure altogether. And also, I think it's important to note that as you move between countries, you sort of need to understand that it's not the same as in your country. You might have to change the way that you practice. It's not some other skills are not totally transferable. The organization that you work for and the position that you apply for will determine the level of practice that you have to practice in. And it does. I don't want us. I normally do not encourage people to look at it as a demotion. I think you look at it as a different country where you need to practice in a different way, in a different skill set. It's up to you if you're driven by skills or driven by how the organization values you, your output towards um, the community. Anyway, now let's move towards
I think that is a very important thing
yeah,
that you said there, Malusi. Um, not to be skill driven, but to look at experience and what the organization can offer you, especially when you are
yeah,
changing. I think that's very important for most people when they are looking at new
yeah.
opportunities.
It's not just the skills, but sometimes the value that you bring might be bigger than just the skill that you also bring. It's what I've experienced moving around in these places. It's totally different. I had to appreciate that it's different and understand that there is value that I can bring in whatever way, shape, or form, and actually feel that I'm learning things that are new because it's a different country too. We are going to talk at some point about the experiences of moving between countries and the culture and how it affects your practice. And people will ask, how is it like working in South Africa? Is it the same as in Australia? Each society is different, and the conditions that you experience in each country are not exactly the same everywhere. As much as the blood is red and the human physiology functions the same everywhere, but the socio-economic structures of the countries does have an effect in how the population behaves. I think that makes sense. I'm not sure whether that's
Yeah,
too
yeah.
technical what I'm explaining or not, but that's
No, I think I totally agree because if I'm gonna be just maybe not to dive deep into it, but like for instance, when I switched from Namibia to London, I did find it that you are not just a clinician, you also have to do a lot of social stuff that you have
yeah,
to do, like in terms of education, in terms of communicating with other team members. It's not just you taking to the
yeah,
hospital, but there are other teams that you have to interact with, and I'm sure we can explore that at the later
yeah,
stage. But
yeah.
yeah,
Now, just to ask the Elias, when you and even you, when you guys left, um, well, Namibia and South Africa, do you feel that the country that you're from prepared you to work internationally? Because I feel that yes, I've studied from South Africa, and even when I left, I was prepared to work for different countries. Just that what I needed to adopt is the different cultures, which found it difficult. But eventually, I get used to the different cultures of where you get to work. How was your experiences when do you feel that you were prepared enough or well when you left your home countries to work internationally? Especially both of you since have
Let me
moved from
start.
one country to
Let me
another.
start, Elias. I'll say it's important to anyone that starts in the industry to get experience in the country where you work, so that you'll have confidence, at least in the skills that you can do. When you're sitting in an induction with other clinicians from the rest of the world, you know at least that I know that. Because after that, what happens is because in the induction, in Australia and in New Zealand, I believe, and in the UK, you'll sit in the class. Apart from the organizational culture, the principles, policies, and all those things that you'll be discussing, you'll do scenarios, clinical practice. Even in Qatar, they do the same, so that you understand the clinical practice of their country. But what they don't tell you is that you will arrive in a house and there will be an old man who lives in a country town and decides that they want to call a heart a ticker. My ticker is acting up today. I remember when that happened to me, I was like, what are we talking about now? And then I looked at the person that I was working with. I looked at the clock on the on the wall, and then we figured that he's actually talking about his heart. You know, he's but
Not the ticker of.
I didn't understand. You know, there's a slang talk, and if you move around, and different people speak different English. Because we're from a country that has like 11 official languages, and you learn English in a professional communication. There are people that speak English only as their language, and they have painted it, they've changed their language from being kids, teenagers, to adults. You know, the language has changed. That's who they are, and you need to understand all of them. It would be challenging for a person that speaks English professionally to understand those things. So that's the culture. That's the start of the culture. So there's a whole lot of stuff that might be new to you. And also, other organizations are strict on their culture and how they practice. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with their clinical practice. I'll give you, for example, in the morning in South Africa, there's a parade if you're working for the government. There'll be a parade, there'll be a team leader that's going to talk, which is a manager, and they are going to say, so today, these are the matters. There's a matter from head office, then you need to do X, Y, Z. And then after that, you despair, you go and check your ambulances, and then you start working, right? That's a culture, organizational culture. Here, there's also something that is similar. What in by here, I mean, I'm in Australia. When you arrive, you check your drugs, and you have to see them, physically see the drugs, and you count them. That I have 5 morphine, 5 fentanyl, and 5 ketamine, 10 ketamine wafers. You know, you count them. You need to physically see them, especially the schedule, and that's the culture of the organization. That's how it is, and also in Qatar, it's also totally different. There is a culture that you need to understand that if you take your medication to a pharmacist after you finish working with it, that's the culture. You need to do that. And it's something that may be foreign to you. So if you don't have the foundation of your clinical practice, knowing how to manage your condition, like the conditions, you will be challenged when you have to learn the culture of the organization and your work at the same time. At least have some confidence in one thing or the other. What I've highlighted now is only the culture of organization and your clinical practice. I haven't spoken about the community and how they behave themselves and the conditions that you find in the community. Like, you can be working in a town that has elderly people, and you need to know how to address them, how to talk to you, how to talk to them and stuff like that. So it can be different from place to place. Oh, I've spoken a lot about this.
If you give Malusi a chance to speak, he'll go the whole day. Um, I think for me, one thing that I think that I had that shocked me was, like, we do 3 years of our practice, and in the third year we focus on our advanced life support skills, like pretty much your advanced life support skills, your intubations, your RSI, your mega codes. You focus on that, your neonatals, your ICU transfers and all that. Now when you move to London, you don't do any of it, absolutely none of it. You probably do I mean, cardiac arrests and stuff like that. That's the closest that you come to most of your skills. Now when that is cut off, and then you have to practice at the ECT, I'll probably say ECT scope. Um, you, it's a bit of a shock, such that you're expecting to be more as a paramedic, but now you don't, and you deal with a lot of social stuff. One of them being obviously the English is a little bit different. You thought you spoke English until you go to the UK. If a patient tells you, no, I've been having this cough for a fortnight. Now, me, I've never heard of a fortnight before. And I'm wondering to myself, what is a fortnight,
One,
right?
two, three,
Because
four.
I'm used to is it 4 nights ago? Is it I've never heard of it. So it kind of throws you off a little bit. You're like, ish, I don't understand what this means. But just small things
Mm.
like that. But otherwise, it's there is few things as Malusi has highlighted, social, culture wise. I think also the other thing as well is personality. I think when you work in an industry like Namibia, where there's not much of big personalities, and then you go to a big city where there's big personalities, where it can be someone that has been in the service for 20 years, but they are a BLS only, or a IC in this instance, and they know the skills in and out, and you are a newly qualified paramedic, and you are still getting used to the system, and they start telling you how to do the thing or how to go about this whole thing, and 3 4 jobs, your confidence can fall. Now, when your confidence falls, how do you pick yourself up? How do you ensure that you are confident? And if you have not practiced anywhere else before, and you have not established the way of doing things, it can affect you in a way. Um, so I'll definitely agree with work in your home country before you work anywhere else, so that you establish your base and your confidence as well. And I think just in terms of working with people, there might be cliques at works. How do you deal with cliques? Especially when you work in a small base where it's just the 6 of you guys or the 8 of you guys, you know who's coming, who's going. How about when you get into a station where there is different people every day? Every day you see different paramedics. How do you deal with that? Or someone working 12-hour shifts with someone that you do not get along with, absolutely don't. Or you just don't understand each other because the other person speaks Irish and you speak your African English. How do you navigate
Yeah.
that space? So there is quite few challenges. It does take a while to adapt, and I'll probably say to someone that moves countries like that, give it time, give yourself grace. If you feel like you're not ready to go out on the road as an independent clinician, most of the trust will give you someone to work with. Doesn't matter how long you take. If it can be eight months, it can be a year, as long as you don't feel like you are ready. But just do not, sort of get back into your shell and not, do things or be proactive about stuff. But yeah, there are gonna be challenges.
Anyway, thanks for that, Elias. I think we've explored this component much thorough. We can move along with our ring now. I hope you answered that, Tulani.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the apart from being a paramedic, you can decide that you want to become a team leader or a station manager. So I think everywhere in the world there will be stations that are not in the center of like main city where the organization is based. You'll have to go to the rural towns. I think in South Africa you'll have like stations in the mines, some other stations in the townships, and then you go and manage those people there. So it's different from country to country, but you can choose that that's the role that you wanna do. Obviously, you need to be a leader yourself because it's easy. You can be just operational. You don't need to be a leader. And sometimes it's actually not even will be about money. It's about you wanting to be in that position of team leadership. So there is that option. And in other places, there will be clinical team leader where you focus on both the management of the station and also on the clinical component. In the private sector in South Africa, you do both. I remember when I used to be a station manager in my small base in Mthatha there, I would be responsible for ensuring that the paperwork is done correctly simply because it had to go to the medical aid so that they can pay, right? So I had to double check everything before I send it to head office, and then after that they will uh, continue and scan and send it, and then also ensure that the vehicles are functioning. So it's about you being organized, basically. Functional vehicles. No, if your staff member is driving long distance, ensure that the ambulance they're driving is ready to do that. If there's a problem, you fix it. Ensure that their fuel card, ensure that the staff has their leave, and there are people that are manning the ambulance all the time. It's part of those things that you have to do. So that's leadership in the team level, ensuring that the station actually functions and does render the services that it has to render in the community. You decide if that's what you want to do. So that's one of the options. Uh, Tulani, have you been a station manager?
Fortunately, but I don't think that's one of the career. ways path that I wanted to take. When I worked for Making 911, I was obviously a shift leader as an operational ALS, but I assumed that role. I was given that role as a shift leader.
That's
But
amazing.
this as far as I could go. I never went above that. I actually don't like being in that role. I don't think I would have went high as above as a manager. I was happy being the team leader,
Yeah.
uh, mainly because I just don't like the work politics, the conflicts, even the admin that comes with it. It's not me.
I think,
It's not
yeah,
me.
I think what I didn't like was the pressure that you need to, in the private sector, that you need to ensure that the numbers are going. Like you need to get the clients, you know? I was fine with it when I was working in Umtata because it's a community that I could penetrate and negotiate with the nurses, with the hospital, and that I need to get the cases or assist them log like a call to the medical aid so that and I tell them my ambulance is right outside here. You can do the job right now if you want, you know. And I'll beat my target like that. I'll ensure that the ambulance is functional, but also understand what's happening in the hospital. If there's a patient that I bring, knowing that they are likely to be transferred, I'll follow up the following day. Hey, what's happening there? Do you want to transfer the patient to East London? East London is about 3 hours from Umtata. Or I knew that there was a doctor that used to like to transfer to Devon from Umtata. That's about 8 hours on the road. And I remember the cost was they charge you advanced life support rates to Devon, and then when you come back, it's BLS. But that's a lot of money that you're paying. They can pay your salary at one go as a station manager. So it was something that I knew that I had to do. It's part of being a manager. You have to be responsible. So the bigger the organization, the more they expect from you in terms of doing that, like the marketing and all those things end up falling um, on the hands of the employees as people that are working there because you'll be pushing them trying to get the numbers going because they'll say you need to justify why are we hiring you because you need the numbers. Yeah. And also it has at some point touches on what I call the financial medicine, which is pushing the numbers of calls of your level of practice. So you need to push the number of advanced life support so that they can justify why they have you at the station, which then makes a person, a clinician, feel um, pressure of producing the numbers or getting calls that are in the level. It's something that is unethical, actually, and it's something that has to be looked at some point by the private organizations. All right.
So quick question: Who gives you the calls? Like, for instance, in Namibia, the motor vehicle accident fund is, let's say, there is an accident somewhere between Okahanja and Windhoek. Windhoek being the capital city, and Okahanja is about 60 kilos north. Um, the call will be logged to MVA fund. MVA fund will dispatch all the necessary ambulance. If you attend that call without them dispatching you, then you do not get a payout unless it's a running call. But still, your call center has to inform, if you are private, has to inform MVA that there is a job here or you came across an accident, and they will either say, yes, you can attend, or no, we have another ambulance running already, you can stand down.
Okay. So how it works in South Africa? In South Africa, it's a two-tier healthcare system, which is not the same in New Zealand and in Australia. In the UK, I'm not sure how it works there, but it's a two-tier system. So the two-tier means that you've got the private sector and you have the government. So the private sector, what they do is they service clients that have medical aid. It's called medical aid there. In other countries, called medical insurance. So if there's an accident on the N2 somewhere highway, an ambulance goes there and they find you there, and you have a medical insurance or medical aid, then it means that they'll take you to their one of the hospital they associate with. So then they pay. So that's how the financial transaction happens. And sometimes where we do also have road accident fund. So ambulances used to go in, I'm not sure that still happens now. In all the accidents that are there, if an ambulance goes and picks up a patient, they are going to claim from a road accident fund. It's going to be their department, which is not the same as in Namibia, because Namibia, they send an ambulance to attend to the client because they have dispatched an ambulance to go there as the road accident. So in South Africa, it's the other way around. It's ambulances arriving on scene, they treat the patients, and then they claim after with the road accident fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they don't make up their own accidents, do they?
There needs to be a accident number. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
police.
There needs to be an accident number. One of your responsibilities as the station manager, once you get those calls, you need to go and get the accident number and show that it's written there so that they can claim. It's I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen, but I don't think that's one of the biggest loopholes in the system. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Just to talk there, I think you mentioned something about financial medicine. Um, having worked in private services, is that I also felt that pressure, as an advanced life support paramedic, was an emergency care practitioner, where you get pushed to say at the end of the month you have to have X amount of advanced life support or ALS cases, and that when you're a newly qualified paramedic, it's not a nice thing that happens. But as you go along, you get to understand that it's not right. It's not ethically right. And you move away from it when you get to gain the confidence um, of standing for yourself and knowing what's right and what's wrong. And interestingly enough, that there is a paper that was written by Prof. Lambert and together with Carl Jackson on financial medicine, where he describes or defines the word financial medicine. And think, if I still remember correctly, referred to as financial medicine, where delivering healthcare to patients, where the main gain is financial gain or profit over the provision of emergency medical care, which is not good. Where when the practicing practitioner uh, is trying to gain financial medicine over servicing or over billing, which would rise in cost of the patient's healthcare cost and medical insurance in South Africa. And it's an interesting study. I would suggest that everybody should read it. It was a qualitative pilot study that explored and described the experiences of South African paramedics with regards to practicing financial medicine. So yeah, people should read it. It's
yeah.
interesting.
We'll share the link of that study. Yeah, so those are the tales of private ambulances in South Africa. It's a very interesting world out there. Anyway, there are areas that we haven't touched much, but as you're a station manager, you can be a senior manager now, be in charge of a region where you are in charge of possibly 5, 6 stations. You're ensuring that they are bringing the income, everyone is alive, no one is doing what they want to do at work that is illegal, like ensuring the human resources part and ensuring the operational part and ensuring the clinical part. That's basically in the business of day-to-day functioning of the ambulance. Whether you're working for the government or you work in the private sector, you do have those roles. They might be called different things. And then at the end, at the center, you'll have a director. So in terms of the operational role, it's the advanced paramedic, that's your pinnacle, or consultant paramedic, depending on what you've done. So let's go back there. You have, in terms of your university qualification, you can finish with your BSc, your primary degree, or you do your honors, or you do a grad diploma. In Australia, it's there, and I'm sure in New Zealand it's there too, where you focus on a specific area. It can be ICP, intensive care paramedic, or community paramedic, and then you focus in that area. That is your practice. That you decide that at your initial stages of your career, that's where you want to go. and then you decide that you want to do your masters, where you can also, there are two types of masters. There is a masters that focuses on clinical practice, and there's a masters that focuses on research. So the research component is where you are at the bottom of the cycle that we have there, where you have the lecturers and the research fellows. And then also there's an MBA, Masters in Business Administration, where you can do if you want to become a manager. So those are the options. And I'm going to move back to Lani. I want you to just tell us in your words. You might follow that cycle or not. But what do you think are the career prospects after you've done your master's and your PhD in emergency medical care? What is your progression? Are there any other ways of making money in the industry that you know of, or ways of practicing continuously after research as a paramedic?
So I think on the first episode I did mention um, that there's no money in the EMS. Let's get that one thing straight. It's just that you need to be passionate about what you want. But also you need to understand that trying to make money in the EMS, it means that you're going to get yourself burnt out. And I can only talk from the personal experience on how I've worked. When I was newly qualified in the EMS, I used to work overtime, a lot of overtime. But nobody tells you that you work too much, you're going to get yourself burnt out. But you do make that money. But also, this is, I don't know if it's a gap in the EMS training, but nobody tells you about SARS. Nobody tells you about the tax men.
Mm.
Because at the end of my first year of working, or the following year, tax year, I realized that I owed a lot of money. So you need to understand those challenges. Making money, but yet also, if you're not doing your tax properly, or if you get making more money, you need to also pay more tax, and that's something that was never explained. Um, and I think once I figured it out as a operational paramedic, then I understood that if I work overtime, work extra shift, or I work events somewhere, I needed to pay more to SARS or to the taxmen, the South African tax revenue services. However, as I mentioned, that you can still make money, but understand that it comes at a cost. Is it family time? Is it money that you're going to be paying extra to SARS or to the tax? Um, and also your health wise, your mental, your physical, and your emotional, physical, and that takes a toll on you. Because I remember when I was still when I worked for the University of Johannesburg, on weekends I would work um, extra jobs just to try and to make sure that I sustain my living. And yes, everything was working nice and well, that I was making extra cash. But at the end, I was tired. I work Monday to Friday, and then on weekends I work those extra gigs that I do, maybe 2, 3 in a month, which means that on weekends I would work extra shifts. But it's tiring. It's really, really tiring, and something that I would caution, because nobody tells us about these things. You get to learn as time
Yeah.
goes on. Is that when you do that, just think of yourself. Are you not going to be burnt out at the end? Do you have time for family? Because it's important that you also have time for family. You have time for your leisure time to relax. And I never thought of that, but it's lessons that I learned throughout. But definitely, you can still make money, especially in South Africa. You can still make money, but understand that when you make money, it comes at a cost. It's not just financial gain, but you're gonna get burnt out. You're not spending time with your friends. You're not building relationship with your family. On holidays, you might be working. So yeah, so those are the things that you need to take into
Yeah.
consideration when you do all
I
of
have
that.
two questions, one for you, one for you, Tulani first, and then the other one is for Elias. The first one for you, Tulani, is you worked in the university. And
Yeah.
were you a senior lecturer at the time, or you were moving towards that?
Unfortunately, no, I was not a
Yeah,
senior
that's not
lecturer.
my primary question though. My question is then, after senior lecture, what happens in terms of the direction of your career moving that way? You get to be a senior lecturer and then associate professor. How do you get to become an associate professor? And what are the benefits of being an associate professor? What do you understand about getting that position or being a full professor? Ah.
Uh, I, you know what? The thing is to get to a full professor. It's not related to, and that's one thing that I like about the education space is that it's not related to somebody maybe vacating the position, or you have to wait for somebody. I'm sorry, it's going to sound cruel, but you have to wait for someone to die so that you can get promoted. No, it's the career progression in the academic space depends on you as an individual, um, and you need to meet the requirements. I'm not going to delve into the exact requirements, but obviously, in order for you to, and the requirements keep on changing. Um, at that moment in time, in order for you to become a senior lecturer, you needed to have a PhD. You must have had publications, and also you must have had your teaching and learning
Patient.
uh, supporting documents that support your application to become a senior lecturer. And once you've done, you get promoted to a senior lecturer. Obviously, you need to understand that being a senior lecturer, it comes with an increase in salary. And then also then once you move from senior lecturer, you can become an associate professor, but also there's requirements that you need to meet to become an associate professor. Um, and it's linked to your publications, the amount of publications, and there's other requirements that you need to meet to become an associate professor. And then once you've done associate professor, then you become a full professor.
Mm.
So I think I wanted to be a senior lecturer, but I didn't have a PhD, um, and
Big getting no.
I hope that one day
It's
Cooking.
cooking. Yeah.
I
Cooking.
hope you sounding like a Gen Z now cooking.
The stove is on.
I hope that when I go back into the education space, I will definitely be a senior lecturer. Something that I aspire to. I think this thing when I was first introduced to this career framework, I looked at where am I going career wise. I still want to go back to the academic space to be a lecturer.
Yeah. Talking about academic space, I am affiliated with one of the local universities, and it assists me to be in touch with what's happening, you know, and as and be in the system of the academic space. So I do academic as a casual. It it's not really financially based for me. It is about that space, academic space, to be in touch with that. So for me to be that, for me, I did it because that's my interest. I have a master's, and my master's is research based. So it means that I could assist in that department with research in that space where I can now and then. So it's one of the things that you can do as a career. But at the same time, I'm full time employed as an operational paramedic. Yeah. So I wanted to also ask Elias. I know that you have uh, experience in working in events. Yeah, there are two. You don't see events in this cycle that we have in this wheel that we have. Uh, Tell us about that space of working events, working contracts and stuff like that. I can be transparent that I know that none of us here have worked in the mines. We don't have that experience here, but we have. You can tell us, Elias, if you have, but we do have experience in the events in different sectors. I think actually we we met doing events somewhere in the world.
Yeah. Yeah,
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 but you can
definitely.
just
Um,
Ellis.
I think probably the biggest experience was Qatar. I think Qatar was sort of the biggest event that I've done in terms of people that we had to cater for. And with that, you need to be a paramedic. You need to have a certain level of experience, and you need to have worked an event before. I did few stadiums
So Qatar was the
in the
Soccer World
UK.
Cup for everyone,
Yeah, that was Qatar was the
biggest
Soccer World Cup, the
sporting event in the world.
2023, was it? 2023, which year was it? The years are flying so fast
No,
nowadays. Actually, 2022,
It
2022.
was
All right,
2022.
was it 2022? Okay, yeah. So that was last year. It was the year before. So that was one of the biggest. And I've also done some events like the football stadiums in the UK, which is also big. So you get like a certain segment that you are responsible for, and that you will have also sort of like specific areas, just like we did in Qatar, where you'd have like a clinic where you can take your spectators that collapse, or your spectators that are not feeling well or become too intoxicated, or whatever the case might be. You have a specific section. Now, in terms of others like ITV, the Bake Off, and Darts, and all others that I've done in the UK, it's pretty much you. So it's pretty much, so you have a response vehicle, you have a jump bag or a paramedic bag, you have your monitor, and then you have some source of oxygen. And basically what you would normally not have on an ambulance, but just like as a first responder. And basically you'll be taking care of, let's say, maximum maybe 50 to sometimes 60 people. It can even be more, but usually you have an ambulance that waiting to respond just in case anything happens there. Now, with this, you don't really have any special training. The only thing that you get is induction. There is paperwork. Everyone that you see, you need to sort of like do a little bit of paperwork. You need to sort of like advise them that if you render any treatment, they have to be transported. Otherwise, you kind of just give first aid, and you sort of like give them a paper to say, hey, you can go to the hospital. This is the notes that I've taken down, and so forth. To add to that, there's also the cruise ship. The cruise ship is another thing that a lot of paramedics are working nowadays, and it's. I think the impression of most people is that the cruise ship doesn't really have experience. It's a lot of leisure, as you may call it, and that you just go for holiday and fun and all that. But it's actually busy. It's very, very busy. You run a clinic within the morning hours, and then you have lunchtime, if it's depending whether it's a sea day or whether it's a pod day, and then you'll be on call. You can be in your cabin, you can be wherever, but then you'll have a bag. And if a call comes through from customer service, and then you have to go to that specific cabin, or wherever the patient is, and then you usually have like a wheelchair or like a stretcher chair, and then you bring them down to the clinic. And then usually you would work with one senior doctor, one junior doctor, and you might have four nurses, a senior nurse, and three other nurses, usually depending on the size of the cruise ship. And then you also take care of the crew and the guests. Now, when you work on the cruise ship, it's a lot of, you have to be, and they are very, very sort of, they take a lot of responsibility when it comes to paperwork and all this, because especially when you work for the crews that sail the US. The systems are different, and maybe just for time, I'm not gonna get into so deeply into it, but it's busy. Basically, you do get a lot of experience, a lot of primary care experience. I'm sure we can cover on how you can get into it later in a different podcast because of time. But yeah, those are the sort of events that you can do. But yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, but you don't necessarily need specialization. I'll probably say having primary care or sort of like urgent care or like minor illness training will help you greatly, because you see a lot of minor illnesses.
So I guess you still need to be a paramedic for a couple of years before you can enter in that industry. Do you think yeah, it's
Definitely.
something that is sustainable where you can say this is your career, then this is what I do with like as compared to being operational? Mm.
Yes and no. Yes, for the mere fact, let's say for instance, it's mostly privately run. Let's say for instance, events in London, they are mostly privately run. Like I have been part of few organizations that only do that. Uh, yeah, EMSR, which is one private company, and TBG, which is like an agency that caters for different events. They have events that they are sort of like the sole provider for those events or for those companies. So whenever they have an event, let's say a boxing match, they'll put out a message to their group of paramedics to say we have this, and they have some specific paramedics that do these events. So, and like I remember during COVID when the ITV studio was not as busy, we could not go, we could not do shifts all the time. So only certain times that you could do, and some shows get cancelled and they don't require you anymore. And also, not all the events are running all the time. Like the Premier League only runs at certain periods of the year, and then they have like 2 or 3 months where they are off. So you will not have work. So yes, you can, especially given that you work for a company that caters for different events. But otherwise, it's also a tricky space, as there might not be events all the time.
Right. It's an interesting space on its own. Well, I do hope that we get someone that works in the mines and they tell us of their day-to-day experience. I have a lot of friends that work there and other colleagues that we went to uni with that are in that space. It's a very interesting space. I know a lot of them have turned that to their career. Like it's like you're a contractor. You work 6 months with one contract, 2 years with one organization, and then you move to the next. There's no permanent employment, but that's what they do. That's how they've chosen to shape their life. Obviously, you'd have to manage your finances well there. In the same cycle, we're rounding up now. There is research and development. There are independent organizations that just do research. I've heard that there are opportunities whereby a paramedic who has experience in that area is asked to be part of those research departments as a paramedic if the need that is being researched is paramedicine. So that's one of the things that you can do. So if you remember in the primary degree that we do, research is there, but it's at a entry level, you're being introduced to research. It's one of the things that are there in the whole cycle as you see, and you can have employment in that direction if you want. Opportunities there are not very common as compared to being operational, team leadership, and lecturing, but there is that part that requires one to participate in research. And we do need a lot of people that are going to function in the research space. Obviously, research becomes a bit of a specialization. It's good if you do like a postgraduate, like a master's and your PhD, so that you can understand what's happening there much better. But yes, there is much that is done that can be learned in the research space. Did you want to say something, Elias? I see you smiling. Or you just
No, no. I was just saying that if you get you starting to talk about research, you'll never stop. So I hope we put a timer on how long you're allowed to talk
I'm
about
done.
research, because I know you love
I'm
this
done.
space.
I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys want to add?
Just a few things. I think when you asked me about the training, the shift from professor to associate professor, sorry, from associate professor to professor, I didn't do justice with that part. But I think the things that take into consideration when someone is to move from associate professor to full professor, they look at the amount of publication they've published, but not just publishing in journals, but it has to be, your top tier journals. Also research supervision, how much postgraduate students have you supervised and guiding them to completion their degrees, and the research impacts that you've done in the field, impacting the field. Let's say it's someone working in emergency medical service in our sector, how much impact the research they've done has an impact, and, and how much citations do they have and policy influence. And also, something that is linked to promotion is your teaching and teaching experience, where you have to demonstrate that you teaching demonstrate excellence in teaching. What are the innovative ways that you're going to introduce when you're teaching students, and curriculum development, student supervision, undergraduate and postgraduate supervision, and there are minor things like your administrative roles, your communication, your community engagement roles. So all of these things are linked to promotion, and they take into consideration. There's much more that I can discuss, but I think I wanted to add that part when it comes um, to the movement between senior lecturer to associate professor and to full professor. And also, just from a personal experience from my side, I think I've my career progression has been all over the place, but I think I know where I'm going. My career progression. I started as an ECP, went to teaching, and then went to operational. But now that I've done my master's complete and I'm working PhD candidate, I don't know why they call PhD candidate, but PhD candidate busy with my data collection, moving towards hopefully one day I'll be um,
Doctor,
a doctor.
Dr. Siman.
And
Dr. Simon.
associate professor sounds hard to get there
Oh, you
when you
get
look at the
there, man. You
requirement.
get there. You get there. You have the heart for it.
That's my career progression.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I don't being a team leader, it's not what I want, but definitely the education space. I enjoy research. I haven't supervised students in a while, 2 years now, but I do miss that part of research supervision. And sorry, Elias, I know
No,
research.
I'm definitely switched on.
And to that, you still peer review, or you don't
um,
take any.
I haven't been invited to peer review an article this year,
I
or
think people are not
and
are
also
not
I haven't.
publishing this year because I didn't get a lot this year too. I only got one like a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Whoa, another opportunity to peer review." I actually enjoyed reading that paper. Anyway, uh, did you get any, or you end up not getting any?
No, I haven't. I haven't been actively looking for places to peer review, and also I haven't been invited. Something that I enjoy also, but I haven't done it. I think maybe because I've also been busy, so I haven't actually checked which places I can peer review. But I think after this conversation, you can tell me. Maybe I'll see if I can do next year something that I'll do as part of my research part. Yeah.
2 years, I got the pleasure of being invited to review for the Paramedic Australasia, their conference, the research conference, their abstract, which was pretty cool. It's nice to see research that is coming out and you have a contribution to the industry. So if it's important that once you are in the research space, you contribute to the community by peer reviewing. It's your contribution to the research space. I'm not going to talk a lot about research today because this is not a research podcast. But to everyone that didn't know much about paramedicine or pre-hospital emergency medical care, or what you call it, emergency care practitioners, or whatever name that you call it in the world. This is us, and these are the opportunities and the career opportunities that we have. Um, we normally say it's a new career. Yes, it's new comparing to others. I think in DUT, Durban University of Technology, where I studied, they produced their first cohort in the late 90s, and that's when like their diplomas who were practicing as advanced life supporters. And it's something that has been like that, possibly in other parts of the world. It came on later. I remember that in America, they're still having that discussion around professionalization. Professionalization meaning that it's going towards the university as compared to getting the short certificates, but it varies from state to state. So it is interesting that this is the wheel that they've come up with. So we thank the College of Paramedicine in the UK for developing this. It's actually an interactive PowerPoint presentation. If you find it on the internet, you'll find it. It's interactive. If you move your cursor, you'll see different things there. So we appreciate you and thank you for your time and for watching our podcast. We hope that you will be a regular. Do follow us and do the right thing with clicking and whatever that clicking you have to do to be part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.